Frank here is going to give a little spiel about Always Golf. Frank, go ahead.
Thank you, Nick, for setting this up. Nick's a great customer of ours here at Always Golf. My name's Frank. For those who don't know me, I'm the owner and general manager here at Always Golf Club. Born and raised here in Westlake, Ohio. Was down in Columbus for school. Always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Really fell in love with golf during COVID, and the golf simulator industry's kind of been taking off. Looked into franchising about 5-6 years ago with an X-Golf and decided not to do that. Decided to go on my own and tried opening something in Columbus. Real estate deal fell through. I don't need to bore you guys with all the details, but here we are a few years later. We finally got a deal down here in Westlake, my hometown. So I'm here, 5-6 days a week. I got a great team of guys that grew up in the area as well. And so we're kind of your one-stop shop for everything golf. You can play around at Augusta or Pebble Beach, play around at Big Bend. You could hit the driving range for 30 minutes. You can play in a league. Nick plays in a weekly league. He's played in a few different league sessions with us. He's got a group of buddies that play every Tuesday night. So we do them year-round. They're cheaper in the summer. We got one coming up in the spring in a week. So if you're interested, it's an 8-week league. It'll end in early May. That weather outside's not getting much nicer, guys, for April. Beyond that, we do lessons, club sales, and club fittings. We actually have a demo day this Wednesday with Strixon. It is filled up, so unfortunately there's no more spots. But if you're in the club market, you can fill out our fitting form on our site. So we do a lot of different things here, and it's we always say it's always golf weather here, so it's always a great place to come get swings. We do some different things like this. This is our private room. We do lessons back here. We also do parties and events, little birthday parties. See some of the stains on the carpet. I need to get green carpet everywhere. What I learned. You learn things like that over time, yeah. But overall, we're just super excited to have you guys here. If you haven't been here yet, we have also a full service bar, so you can have a cocktail, have a beer while you're playing. It's nice as well. Beyond that, I'll leave it to Nick to help us talk through some of our back pain like I have. So.
All right. I'm going to be talking for probably 20-30 minutes, so get comfortable. There's chairs, whatever you need to do. Does everyone have the TPI? We're going to do this at the end, so just keep that off to the side.
You got it.
Thanks for coming, everybody. I'm Dr. Nick. Most of you know me. If you don't, now you do. So I want you guys to read that and just digest it for about a minute, 30 seconds. So I will say I'm not a swing coach. That is Frank's specialty. But I'm a mobility coach and mobility expert. That transfers to most any sports. My passion in particular are outdoor sports, so golf included. And we're going to talk about injury risk reduction today, not injury prevention. Injury prevention doesn't exist because things happen, but we can certainly reduce our risk for injury, and I'll get into that as we go. So a few questions for you guys, and I'm gonna need hands. You guys can think about it. What causes the most injuries in golf? Larry.
Age.
Age, I like that. Anyone else?
Lack of flexibility.
Lack of flexibility, I like it.
Overuse.
Overuse. I like all the answers, and they're all correct. The main one is overuse. So when we talk about an overuse injury, and again, we'll get into that as we go, it's doing too much too quickly. It's springtime right now, we're all rearing to get out there. Again, too much too quickly with the overuse injury. Next one, what is the number one way to reduce your injury risk across really all sport? And this is research based. What one thing, let's say in training?
Stretching.
Stretching?
Warm up.
Warm up? No and no.
Strength.
Yes, so strength across sport has been shown to be the number one way to reduce injury risk. They've shown that across pretty much every single sport. All right, show of hands. Who warms up before playing practicing? And I don't mean with a 12-ounce curl. So most of us, except young Matt, he's just fluid.
Depends how much time you have, right? You're rushing to the course?
Matt shows up to our league, he just hits bombs.
He's out till 3:30 in the morning down at the woods.
He's already warm.
Yeah. Here's another question for you guys. Who is currently working on any type of like fitness program with golf-oriented workouts? One, maybe two, couple? Okay, okay. So just a little bit about myself. I started Pinpoint Physical Therapy a few years ago. I'm right down the road in Rock River, about 10-15 minutes from here. I'm in a gym setting, so it's very much built for an active population. Luke here is one of the coaches at Paragon Health and Fitness, where I share space. It was a side hustle, part-time, and now I'm full-time now, living the dream. Again, specializing with active adults, really in the outdoor sports realm. Work a lot with golfers, runners, kayakers, skiers, snowboarders in that realm, along with various other athletes as well in the ball sport realm. So today, just a little overview. The three buckets I want to talk about today, we're going to go through pain and injury risk, movement limitations, and then power production. Everyone wants to swing faster. We'll go through that at the end. So who said the overuse? Yeah, so that is too much too soon. And generally it's a mismatch in one of these three things, either your mobility, your strength and power, or your general fitness, right? Not many people raise their hand when it, said, are they working out with golf in mind? Pain can also affect how your muscles are working. So there's kind of a catch-22 here. With discomfort, that also means your muscles aren't likely going to be activating as efficiently as possible, or the pattern that you want them to be in. The patterning, right, is with the swing coach. They can work on that efficiency and that patterning. But again, pain can, one, it's going to limit your mobility, and also limit your power output as well. Does that make sense? So these are the most common injuries we see. I know a few people raise their hand for low back, elbow, wrist, hand pain. You've probably heard of golfer's elbow on the inside, tennis elbow on the outside of the elbow. Both pretty common issues there, and then shoulder pain as well. Who's had low back pain ever? Just in life, like most of us, right? It's the most common injury across the orthopedic realm. It's the #1 cost, I believe, to the healthcare system in the orthopedic realm as well. Most of the time, we waste a lot of money with imaging, with x-rays, with injections. Most of that can be not prevented, but improved with preventative care, whether that's with physical therapy, chiropractor, massage therapy, things like that. Most of it is a simple muscle strain or sprain. Joint limitations, which is the mobility we've talked about, either in the hips, low back, or the thoracic spine. It could be a disc injury. You guys have heard of sciatica before, where known as tingling down the legs, or simply age and arthritis. Who said that aging? So that's kind of part of it as well. Again, with golfers, are we beating our backs up a little bit more than the general population? Maybe. Also, one of the worst things you can do for your spine is nothing, right? Most people think like runners are the example with knees, same thing with golfers. Research has shown that doing nothing for joint health is much worse than golfing more in that wear and tear. It's much worse to do nothing as far as arthritis development, and that's been shown across most of the joints in most sports. A few solutions for low back pain. It's volume adjustment, right? We talked about doing too much too quickly, so just taking a few days off. Sometimes these things can generally go away with a little bit of rest. Shorter swing length, and Frank can help you with that. Core weakness potentially, but the one I highlighted here is mobility in the mid-back and the hips. So a little anatomy lesson here. The lumbar spine, L5 through 1, does not rotate very well. Those joints are more or less aligned vertically. So you can see they're meant for forward, backward. They're not meant for rotating. If we talk about the hips, right, a ton of rotation here in the hips, right? Ball and socket, they're meant to rotate. Thoracic spine, the joints are now from here, now they're here, angled like this. A bit more rotation is involved in the thoracic spine. You do have trips which sort of limit and get in the way. But if we're talking about mobility, we're not talking about improving the low back mobility as far as rotating, because it's very, very limited anyways. Small return on investment with that. But it's working on the joints above and below. So what's above and below? Mid-back, right? Thoracic, you've probably seen a bunch of thoracic drills, up, thread the needle, open book, and then hip mobility, internal, external rotation, and extension. So we'll go through some of that later. Does that model make sense as far as lumbar spine? Pretty limited with rotation. Want to work above and below the joints. Make sense? Okay. So when we're talking about the elbow and wrist, I'm going to mostly focus on the elbow. We got the two tendon issues in the elbow, and the lateral and the medial elbow. So golfer and tennis elbow are their nicknames. I've seen each in either sport, it doesn't really matter. The nicknames are the nicknames, but essentially what those are inflammatory overuse tendonitis issues. So a tendonitis, or tendinopathy we call it now, is an inflammation of a tendon. Why does that happen? Overuse, you don't rest it, there's a little breakdown of that tendon. The inflammation in a way is good, you're going to start healing the tendon. But then if you just keep repeating over and over again, there's this buildup of inflammation that then you start getting more breakdown than repair, and it becomes painful and inflamed. That's what a tendonitis is. Has anyone had that golfer or tennis elbow before, like maybe later in the season, might start flaring up a little bit. Early in season 2, it's key to volume control. Like I have here again, volume adjustment. Just being aware of how much you're swinging. I don't know if you want to keep a journal. I tell my runners to keep a mileage journal as far as knee problems in the spring are super common. Everyone's just raring to go. Same thing with golf, where it's just 10% rule with golf, 10% more a week at the most as far as swinging volume. I'm not the good to count your swings, but maybe it's, going to the range for 45 minutes, and then maybe next week it's a little bit longer, and so on.
Work on that short game of putter.
Yeah, exactly. Just don't start hammering, hammer and driver for an hour at the range next week. The next nice day. Again, there's some swing adjustments that a coach can help you with. Has anyone heard of mat versus grass, as far as mats causing more injuries in golfers than grass? So that's one thing I did here, and I did a research dive on it the other night. There's very little evidence that that's true. So what I would say is switch up the material that you're swinging on. Sometimes it's mat, sometimes it's grass. Just switch it up. Don't stick with just one or the other. Change it up. And then some gear adjustments. Make sure your gear fits your body, essentially. Get good grips, clean your grips. Does anyone have any current elbow or shoulder, or elbow or hand or wrist stuff going on?
So if it flares up on you, let's say your elbow just starts killing you.
Yeah.
Is it try to rest it a week?
Yeah.
Like, you said it inflames a little bit, the tendon.
It inflames,
You
right?
You ice it? Or-
So the tendon loading program, I want to touch on that. So essentially, no ice. I'm not a huge fan of ice, Advil. That is kind of going out the wayside. The whole rice is rest, ice, compression, elevation. That has actually been shown in many soft tissue injuries to slow down healing. What you want is some compression, sure. You want some active rest, some light exercising, which would be like stage 1 of a loading program. It could be massage work, soft tissue work as well, along with just keep yourself moving, right? If these things are inflamed, especially early in the season, if you let them go for too long, that's when you get in trouble. It's like, okay, the first flare-up is a warning sign. That's your yellow light to slow things down and change up what you're doing. What you don't want is this nagging on and off again thing with a tendon that can last your entire golf season. It can just go all year. So when I talk about a tendon loading program, there's different exercises to start with, which isometrics would be stage 1, eccentrics would be a second stage. Essentially what you're trying to do is load your tendon the highest capacity that your body allows it to without it flaring up. I know that sounds almost like the wrong thing to do, like, oh, my tendon is inflamed, shouldn't I just rest it and ice it and take Advil? certainly let it rest for 48 hours, but then you want to start building the capacity of the tendon. Tendinitis is a capacity issue. If you're doing too much too quickly, the tendon, the physical properties of that tendon was not ready for the volume of force that you put it through, right? So rest it for a couple days, and then you start building up the strength and the capacity of the tendon. Now things like massage, I do dry needling, soft tissue work, trigger point release, scraping, muscle scraping, all of those things can help with reducing symptoms and can help expedite, expedite the healing process. But again, if you catch it early, the healing process is much easier. If you're in the cycle of it hurts, I'm gonna rest it and ice it, oh, it feels good in 3 days, I'm gonna go out and swing again. Oh, okay, my 50th swing now is killing me again. Rest it, ice it, now it's gonna take 5 days to feel good. Okay, you rest it, ice it, compress, go out and swing again. Now you're in this roller coaster of inflammation up and down, and you're not changing the physical properties of the tendon. So there's two ways of doing it. Either quit doing what you're doing to irritate the tendon, which we're not gonna quit playing golf, right? Or increase the system that you have, improve the capacity of the tendon, right? It's really one of two. I tell my patients, so you either gotta reduce your volume of your activity, and that's not an answer I like to give all the time. Like, we can adjust the volume, but I'm not one to say stop doing something that you'd like to do because you're dealing with something. It's a little active rest and just adjusting, and then starting to build a tolerance of the system. Does that make sense with tendons?
No,
I could talk for
that's
hours.
a really
Yeah.
interesting answer.
I could talk for hours on tendon rehab. It's an area that I'm very interested in. Elbows are very common. Achilles and knees are the most common tendons. So we've all had tendonitis before, but it's shifting the paradigm away from the rest and ice and compression, going more toward an active recovery approach. Does that make sense to everybody? Cool. Again, it's just kind of getting ahead of these things before it's preventative, right? Getting ahead of these things before they become a longer term issue. What irritates me is when someone will come in and, God, my elbow's been killing me for 8 weeks. I don't know, now it's like, now I can't even hold a coffee cup. I'm like, well, why don't you call me, 7 weeks ago to get this thing rolling? And just catching things before they become too much of an issue. Another thing to touch about with the elbow, most of the time, unless it's just pure load issue, it can be a shoulder issue as well, with mobility or for strength. Then we'll hop into the shoulder. Again, with the elbow, I always look above and below the joint. So elbow, we're gonna look at the wrist and hand, we're gonna look at the shoulder. Same thing as the back, low back. We're gonna look at the hips, we're gonna look at the thoracic spine. So for the shoulder, with that, we're gonna look at the neck and the mid back, right, above and below. A lot of these issues are, again, rotator cuff strains and sprains, maybe stability issues. It could be mobility issue in the neck or the mid back, maybe some tendinitis going on in the rotator cuff as well. Again, all these things are very, they do very well with conservative PT rehab. And most oftentimes it's a strengthening program for the shoulder, or maybe a back and neck mobility program, just some stretching mobility work. And then again, volume adjustment and some swing speed adjustment. Other things that I haven't talked about are orthopedic surgeries, rotator cuff repairs, disectomies in the back, or you saw Tiger Woods that had the multiple level fusions, right? That's going to obviously affect mechanics with swings. In that case, maybe the ceiling drops down for the improvement. But again, you can always compensate with other ways to generate power and mobility in the swing. Anyone have any shoulder issues going on? Hopefully not yet. Yeah, I know one. Intermittently, yeah. So the main takeaway, and all these slides I'm going to send you guys to, but the main takeaway is overuse, right? This is the time, it's the spring, just gradually build up. That line has to be slow as far as how much volume you're getting in with your repetition. Like Frank said, work on your shoulder, get more of it. It's lower impact anyway. Okay, I'm going to take a breather, I'm going to get some water. Do you guys have any questions? questions, questions if it's specific questions, we're about halfway through this part. For shoulder, for low back, for elbows.
Okay.
You pointed pretty much every body part.
Well, if anyone wants to take some swings, we got a Pebble Beach set up here on hole 7. See if we get the closest to the pin.
What's the wind, 50 miles an
No,
hour?
there's a little bit actually. 10 mile an hour in your face. To jet one up to.
Alright,
Go for it, yeah.
Okay, we're getting some.
yeah, no, it's good, yeah. I'm gonna continue in,
5-minute break.
yeah, 5 minutes.